Welcome back to the Investor Minded Framework. In this video, we're talking about touring homes and the process of touring homes to ensure you can get the best investment. So, one of the first things I do when it comes to a property is I've already cleared all the numbers and I know it makes sense to look at. One thing you can do is, if it's more remote, is even tour the property via Google Maps. Get down on the street view, and it may be slightly outdated, hopefully not too outdated. Look down in the, I believe, bottom right corner to see if the timestamp for Google's imaging is up to date. If not, get in touch with your local realtor and see if it's something they can do. Can they tour the property and at least take a video of the surrounding area, the inside and outside of the property, so you can at least get a visual before getting into that deal? So, after you've walked around the exterior of the property, understood the roof condition, which is something you may have to access through the interior, and it may be something you'd rather have your inspector review, you also want to review that foundation of the property, what you can see on the exterior side of things. Is it a brick foundation? Are there cracks? Is it cinder blocks? Are there cracks in the cinder blocks? Those things can matter at the end of the day because it's what's supporting the entire property. The roof and the foundation can be some of the most expensive repairs. And the crazy thing is, they're some of the most obvious defects when they do exist because they aren't hidden. Sometimes they can be hidden though. And that's why it does matter to fully understand during the review of the property. When I enter a property, I try to go in through the front door or the back door, and I immediately walk left. And I walk along each wall going to the left and look for any defects that I may see. Whether I note it down on a piece of paper or I take pictures or videos just so I can review it later in a comfortable setting. I'm not feeling pressured by maybe tenants being home at the time or other people that are also touring the property. I want to make sure I get as much information as I possibly can to make the best investment decision I can. So by walking left, I make sure that I don't miss any wall. That's walking left, entering a room, continuing on the left side through the whole room, and then back out of that room and continuing to walk left. I still divide the stories. So, second story, I'm still going to be walking left, but that's going to be once I get to the second story, once I've totally finished looking at the first story of that home, if there are multiple levels to the home. Looking for things like HVAC, plumbing, any water damage, those kinds of things that are happening inside the property. How do the baseboards look? How do all the doors look? Is there a hole in the door? Is there a hole in the wall by the door? All those different things that are going to cost you at the end of the day. These are things that you can submit to even a contractor and say, hey, can you give me a ballpark figure? At that point, they may not even have to tour the property. They may just know from the picture, hey, it's generally going to cost you this much. Add 5% to it, like you do for a lot of the expenses, to know that there's a chance you may have to pay more. But then you're being conservative, and if it comes in at just 2% above, you've saved that 3%, and that's your wiggle room to make sure that you're not going to lose money on that deal. So, looking at the HVAC, generally you're going to have a tag on the outside that's going to tell you a serial number. Sometimes you have to decode a serial number to understand the age of that HVAC. But to know how old that HVAC is can be very important. Many HVACs will last 12 to 20 years, but that 20 years is a pretty old HVAC system. Also for plumbing, when it comes to your water heater, kind of around the same lifetime, but I wouldn't want to be running one that's greater than 15 years old. That is nearing its end of life at that point. You want to be considering at least budgeting for a replacement on those items. For electrical condition, something that oftentimes inspectors will look for is, are any of the outlets grounded? Is that something that meets code? That's something I would highly recommend looking into in your area if that could be a code violation that could get you into hot water if you were to have a significant incident occur that could affect a resident of the property. We're providing a residence for people that we want to be the best residents possible. We don't want to ever put somebody in harm's way. And so noticing those things early on that maybe somebody turned a blind eye to allows us to turn things in the right direction and set that property up for success and those future residents up for one of the best places they've ever lived. Looking at the electrical can also matter too in areas that have older properties. Is the wiring knob and tube wiring that has potentially a higher risk of a bad incident occurring? I'm not saying that it's certain that it's going to occur, but is there that risk present? And can that also be a code issue that's something that could affect lending as well? Because some lending will not accept knob and tube. Looking at water damage being present. If there's significant water present, that's something that can affect lending as well. We're looking at all the different things that can affect lending on this property. And if you're buying with cash, understand too that these risks still affect you. You still may have to pay for these at the end of the day. And then also understanding if there's any future repairs, getting your list ready, and maybe getting in touch with your contractor to say, hey, what is this going to cost me? Once we've exited the property, we have a second look at the exterior, understanding what the parking situation looks like. Do we have off-street parking, on-street parking? Do we have garages? What is the maintenance cost of this? Is it gravel parking? Is it going to be a paved parking? What does it cost to replace that if I have to over time? Because gravel over time becomes mud. Concrete over time becomes the same if it settles long enough. And those are things you will have to pay to replace. And then also understanding what the neighborhood looks like. Like we mentioned, um, driving for dollars through the method of walking around the area. Don't be afraid to take a walk through that neighborhood. If you see family, friends, people out having a great time, it's probably a good place to buy. People probably enjoy living there. If you walk through the area and all you see is police officers and graffiti everywhere, it's maybe not somewhere where you want to buy because you may have added for yourself an extra maintenance item of having to get rid of graffiti. Those are the things that are important to consider when it comes to touring the home. It doesn't rule out the process of having an actual formal inspection done because that formal inspection can help you in the process of negotiating for the property as well. But it at least gives you a groundwork to work with on the analysis for the cost of investing in that property. And at the end of this process, you should know that you know what to inspect when it comes to touring homes.